Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine while looking into the eyes of the person who claims to love you? It is not the coldness of anger, but the terrifying emptiness of a mask. You tell yourself it is just your imagination. You tell yourself you are lucky. But deep down, your intuition is screaming a warning that you refuse to hear. This is the story of Sarah. Sarah was not naive. She was a successful architect, sharp, independent, and surrounded by friends. Then she met Julian. Julian was not just handsome, he was intoxicating. It felt like destiny. On their first date, he didn't just listen, he absorbed her. He loved the obscure jazz band she loved. He quoted her favorite poets. He had the same dreams of travel and art. He told her, "I have been waiting my whole life to find someone who speaks my language." For 3 months, Sarah lived in a golden haze. Julian sent flowers to her office every Monday. He texted her good morning and good night every single day without fail. He wanted to know everything about her fears, her secrets, her past traumas. Sarah opened up like a flower in the sun. She gave him the map to her soul, thinking she was building intimacy. She didn't realize she was handing him the blueprints to her destruction. Julian was mirroring her. He was becoming exactly what she wanted him to be, reflecting her own desires back at her. It was perfect, too perfect. And in the world of psychology, if something feels too good to be true, it is usually a trap. The change did not happen with an explosion. It happened like a slow leak in a gas pipe, invisible, odorless, but slowly suffocating everyone in the room. Once Julian felt he had secured Sarah's heart, the golden haze began to turn gray. It started with concern. One evening, as Sarah was getting ready for a gallery opening, wearing a dress she felt beautiful in, Julian sighed. He looked at her with a mix of pity and disappointment. He said, "You look lovely, Sarah, but that dress, it makes you look a bit desperate for attention. I only say this because I love you, and I don't want people to laugh at you." The words were soft, but they cut like a razor. Sarah felt a flush of shame. She changed the dress. She thanked him for protecting her. This was the first drop of poison. Over the next few weeks, Julian began to rewrite Sarah's reality. If she was happy, he would bring up a painful memory to bring her down. If she was upset, he would tell her she was being hysterical. He slowly isolated her from her friends, whispering that they were jealous of their relationship, that they didn't want to see her happy. "It's just us against the world, baby," he would say. Sarah began to doubt her own mind. She stopped trusting her perception. She found herself apologizing for things she hadn't done just to keep the peace. The confident architect was disappearing, replaced by a woman walking on eggshells, terrified of cracking the perfect surface Julian had created. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday when Sarah finally typed the words into the search bar. She sat in the glow of her laptop screen, her hands trembling, while Julian slept soundly in the next room. She typed, "Partner charming then cruel," and "Why do I feel crazy in my relationship?" The results poured in. Articles, videos, checklists, and one word kept appearing over and over again: narcissist. Sarah read the symptoms: grandiosity, lack of empathy, excessive need for admiration, gaslighting, love bombing. It was like reading a biography of Julian. Every behavior, every cruel remark, every manipulation, it was all there, documented in black and white. For a moment, Sarah felt a rush of euphoria. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't broken. There was a name for this. She felt a surge of power returning to her body. She thought she had solved the puzzle. She thought that by understanding the diagnosis, she could manage the disease. She closed her laptop with a new resolve. She told herself, "I know what he is now. I can handle him. I can outsmart him." But Sarah made a fatal error. She assumed she was dealing with a normal human being who had a disorder. She didn't understand that she was dealing with a predator. By giving him a label, she thought she had put him in a box. But you cannot box a shadow. And the moment she started acting differently, a little less submissive, a little more guarded, Julian didn't panic. He didn't retreat. He sensed the shift in the air like a shark smells blood in the water. Sarah thought she had found the cure, but she had just triggered the final, most dangerous phase of the game. Sarah began to implement her new strategy. The articles called it the gray rock method. The idea was simple: be boring, be uninteresting. Don't give the narcissist the emotional fuel they crave. When Julian tried to provoke her with a backhanded compliment about her cooking, she didn't cry, she didn't apologize. She just shrugged and said, "Okay." When he tried to start a fight about how she loaded the dishwasher, she simply walked away. She felt strong. She felt like she was finally building a wall that he couldn't climb. But she underestimated Julian's ability to sense a shift in the atmosphere. He didn't explode in rage. That would have been too easy. Instead, he went quiet. It was a heavy, suffocating silence that filled the apartment like thick smoke. He stopped coming home for dinner. He stopped texting. He would sit in the living room, staring at his phone, smiling at messages from unseen people, completely ignoring Sarah's existence. It was a punishment designed to trigger her deepest abandonment wounds. He was withdrawing his affection to see if she would beg for it back. And when she didn't beg, when she didn't break, the look in his eyes changed. It wasn't love. It wasn't even hate. It was the cold, calculating look of a child who was bored with a toy and is deciding whether to put it back in the box or break it into a million pieces just to see how it works. 2 weeks later, Sarah decided she needed an ally. She couldn't do this alone anymore. She called her best friend Lisa, someone she had known since college. She arranged to meet for coffee, her heart pounding with the need to confess everything. She was ready to tell Lisa about the manipulation, the cruelty, the name she had found for Julian's condition. She sat down at the cafe, her hand shaking, and before she could get a word out, Lisa reached across the table and took her hand. But Lisa's face wasn't sympathetic. It was full of concern, but not for Sarah. Lisa said, "Sarah, I'm so glad you called. Julian has been so worried about you." Sarah froze. The blood drained from her face. Lisa continued, "He called me last week. He was crying, Sarah. He told me how unstable you've been lately. He told me about your mood swings, your paranoia. He thinks you might be having a breakdown. He loves you so much, he just doesn't know how to help you anymore." The world spun. Julian had gotten there first. He had launched a preemptive strike. He had planted the seeds of doubt in everyone who mattered to her. This is called the smear campaign. While Sarah was busy researching his diagnosis, he was busy diagnosing her to the world. He had painted himself as the long-suffering saint, and her as the ungrateful, crazy partner. Sarah realized with a sickening thud that she wasn't just fighting Julian. She was fighting a version of reality that he had already sold to everyone she loved. She was completely and utterly alone. That night, Sarah went home, not to fight, but to pack. She knew she had to leave. The game was rigged, and the only winning move was not to play. She waited until she heard Julian's key in the lock. Her suitcase was hidden under the bed. She was just going to wait for him to sleep and then vanish. But Julian didn't go to the bedroom. He walked straight to her, holding a piece of paper. It was a printout of her search history. He didn't shout. He spoke in a voice that was terrifyingly calm. He said, "I found this. You think I am a narcissist?" He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Sarah, look at you. You are the one obsessed with yourself. You are the one who needs constant validation. You are the one who is manipulating me." He began to twist the reality in real time. He listed every time she had cried, every time she had asked for reassurance, and twisted it into evidence of her toxicity. He projected his own darkness onto her so skillfully that Sarah began to dizzy. He said, "I have been trying to save you from yourself, and this is how you repay me? By labeling me?" He took a step closer, crowding her space. "You are the abuser here, Sarah, and if you try to leave, I will make sure everyone knows exactly how sick you really are." For a moment, just a split second, Sarah wondered if he was right, and that doubt was the most dangerous weapon of all. Sarah didn't argue. She didn't fight back. In that moment of terrifying clarity, she realized that fighting him was like fighting quicksand. The more she struggled, the deeper she would sink. She waited until he went into the bathroom, grabbed her bag, and ran. She didn't take her clothes. She didn't take her books. She just took her life. She expected him to chase her. She expected angry texts, pounding on the door, threats, but there was nothing. No calls, no messages. It was as if she had never existed. This is the cruelest phase of all, the discard. Julian hadn't just broken up with her, he had deleted her. He had extracted all the fuel he needed, and now she was nothing but an empty wrapper to be thrown in the trash. Sarah sat in a cheap motel room, staring at her silent phone, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the silence was the weapon. It made her feel worthless. It made her wonder if she really was the crazy one. If she mattered so little, surely she must be the problem. The physical escape was over, but the psychological prison was just locking its doors. A month later, Sarah was still picking up the pieces of her shattered reality. She had lost weight. She jumped at loud noises. Most of her friends had stopped calling, uncomfortable with the drama Julian had told them about. Curiosity got the better of her. She unblocked him on social media for just 1 second. It was a mistake. There on his feed was a photo posted just hours ago. It was Julian, looking handsome, healthy, and vibrant. He was at the same jazz club he used to take Sarah to. He was holding hands with a woman. The caption read, "Finally found a soul who brings me peace after the storm." The comments were full of support. "You deserve happiness after what you went through," one friend wrote. "She looks so sweet, unlike the last one," wrote another. Sarah felt the bile rise in her throat. He wasn't grieving. He wasn't reflecting. He had simply seamlessly swapped her out for a new model. He had downloaded a new personality to mirror this new woman. He was happy, and Sarah was the wreckage left behind in his rearview mirror. Sarah zoomed in on the photo. The new woman's face was turned away from the camera, her hair cascading down her back. But Sarah recognized that hair. She recognized the bracelet on the woman's wrist. It was a bracelet Sarah had given to someone as a birthday gift years ago. It was Lisa, her best friend, the one she had confided in, the one Julian had called worried about her. The puzzle pieces slammed together with a deafening crash. Julian hadn't just isolated Sarah from Lisa. He had been grooming Lisa the entire time. He had used Sarah's instability, which he caused, to gain Lisa's sympathy. He had triangulated them perfectly. Sarah wasn't just the ex-girlfriend now. She was the villain in their love story. If she tried to warn Lisa, it would only prove Julian right. It would prove she was the jealous, obsessed, crazy ex. She was checkmated. She stood on the sidewalk outside the motel, screaming into the empty night air, but nobody heard her. And somewhere across the city, Julian smiled, poured 2 glasses of wine, and began the cycle all over again. That is a hard story to hear, isn't it? We want Sarah to win. We want her to expose him. We want justice. But in the world of the narcissist, justice is a myth. The ending for Sarah is tragic because she tried to play by normal rules in a game that has none. Here is the brutal reality check. You cannot fix them. You cannot expose them to people who are already under their spell. Sarah's mistake wasn't falling in love. It was staying to fight a battle she was destined to lose. The only way to win against a narcissist is not to play. You must accept that you will be the villain in their story. You must accept that people will believe their lives. You have to be okay with being misunderstood, because the price of your reputation is cheaper than the cost of your sanity. If this story sounded familiar to you, if you felt a knot in your stomach while listening, that is your intuition speaking. Do not ignore it. Do not wait for the discard. The only closure you will ever get is the sound of your own door closing behind you as you leave. Have you ever tried to warn someone about a toxic partner, only to be made the bad guy? Tell me your story in the comments below. Let's support each other, because sometimes survival is the only victory we get.